Just because you love your wife does not mean that she's receiving the love that you're giving. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 love languages that you need to start sharing to your wife so that she can understand that you actually do love her. Let's get into it. I'm getting into marriage and relationships, and I need to touch on this because it's important to understand not only that, yes, you love your spouse and they love you, but how you show your love. And a lot of times we get this confused. I'll tell you a story. A pastor that I follow on Instagram and YouTube, he was sharing this story that he loved his wife, and the way he wanted to show her that she loved him was he got her car, he took it, he got it washed, he got it detailed, he got everything from like top to bottom, all decked out. He cleaned it, and he spent hours and hours and hours cleaning his wife's car. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. She's gonna love this when I give her the car. She's gonna be like, oh my gosh, you're the greatest. So he does all of that. He presents to her the car. He says, hey, babe, I washed your car. I got it cleaned. And she was like, oh, that's nice. And he was crushed because the way he showed love was by serving, was by doing these things for people, for his wife. So when his wife didn't reciprocate that, it made him feel like he was nothing. I was kind of on a similar boat. I like touch when someone puts their arm on your shoulder or your touches your hand or something like that. That's why when it comes to like public, I don't like people touching me. But when my wife comes, touch, hug, kiss, whatever. That's how I receive love. However, sometimes my wife doesn't want to be touched all the time. And I'm a very touchy person when it comes to the people that I love because that's how I show love. So my love language is touch. But just because my love language is touch doesn't mean that I can show my wife the same love language and have her feel the same exact way. You see, the concept of this is that there are 5 love languages, and every person has their own way that they receive love and their own way that they give love. For example, I am touch and words of affirmation, meaning I receive love by touching, hugs, hand on shoulder, hand on leg, whatever it is. That's how I receive love. I also receive love by words of affirmation. Hey, that was awesome. Hey, you're doing great. Hey, I believe in you. And that those encouraging words, they get me. I'm like, oh man, they must really love me. Now, I don't receive love in other ways, like that example that I gave with one of those pastors. That's called acts of service. I don't receive love like that because it's not in my mind. And what happens is if we, as the husband, we receive love a certain way, we try to give it that same exact way to our spouse. And if our spouse is not receiving it the way that we're giving it, they are going to feel unloved. I'm going to try to slow this down because I'm excited. So sometimes I'm excited. I feel like I'm talking fast. Okay. So, in other words, you can love your wife to the moon and back. But if you're not showing her the way that she receives love, she's going to feel like you don't love her. That's why a lot of times you hear your wife ask like, hey, do you love me? Or I love you more than you love me. Or you hear those little comments and it's like, no, I love you. I love you. I love you. How can I show you that I love you? So there's this book. I got it right here. This is actually the children's version because I couldn't find the other one. But this is called the 5 Love Languages. 5 love languages. It's got of children, but there's the main one, which is the one for your spouse. It's the same love languages. They just mean different things. So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation.
You are amazing.
Words of affirmation is telling somebody that you love them, telling someone that they're doing great, telling somebody that you respect them, telling somebody that they're doing an amazing job, that they're a good provider, that they're a good wife, they're a good husband. That's words of affirmation. So when you receive love like that, that's me. That's how you show love. That's how you receive love. But your spouse may not be words of affirmation. So you got to keep that in mind. Just because you're telling her all of these things because you like being told those things does not mean that she's receiving that. And that means that her love tank, you got empty, you got full. So her love tank is probably still on empty, even though you're doing all the words of affirmation that you can to try to get through to her, but she's just not receiving it because that's not how she receives love. So let's get into the second one, acts of service.
Here, let me help you with this, honey.
This is a big one. I think a lot of women receive love like this. I don't want to say a lot. I know there are women that receive love like this. My wife is an acts of service woman. She loves it when I serve her, when I do things for her, when I take care of things for her. So if I was the one to wash the car, get it detailed, do the whole nine, she would be head over heels for me, man, if I came home and I did that, because that's acts of service. Now, me personally, that's just not my thing. Like if someone did that for me and they came home, I'd be like, oh, awesome, thank you. Like I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But if your love language is acts of service, that's how you receive love. So the third one is receiving gifts.
Thank you for the lovely
So
gift.
if I was to give you a gift, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. If you get a gift, you feel like you're loved. Some people's love language is receiving gifts. So when you go out, you come home with flowers, you come home with chocolates, you come home with I don't know, something, like whatever they like. Anytime you come home with something, their love tank is starting to get filled and they're like, oh my gosh, he loves me. Look, he brought me this and he brought me this and he brought me that, because their love language is gifts, is getting and receiving gifts. So just because, again, I'll just reiterate this, just because you love getting gifts does not mean that your spouse is going to love getting gifts too. Sometimes they'll get gifts and they'll be like, all right, thank you. You know, I'm not really a gift receiving type of person. That's not how I receive love. But hey, I love getting gifts. So the fourth one is quality time.
Let's go do something.
My wife is also big on quality time. Now, here's the thing, like as men, we get caught up in a lot of different things. You're working your business. If you're working a job, you got side hustles, you're providing, you're doing all these other things. And for me personally, quality time is tough, but that's how my wife receives love. So I have to make sure that I set aside some time to, spend with her, like quality time, like off the phone time. Like it's just us two and we're spending quality time together, because that is the fourth love language that people receive and give love. And then the last one, which I went over this already, is receiving touch.
Touching me, touching you.
Touch on the shoulder, touch on the hands. Now, for me personally, I think I just mentioned this in the beginning. When I'm at work, when I'm at professional places, when I'm anywhere, I don't like being touched. Like some people do the friendly, you touch your shoulder. I'm just like, don't touch me. And I'm not trying to be rude, but because I see that as love, and I that's kind of reserved for my loved ones. When other people touch me, I'm like, hey, get off of that. But the main thing that I want to get through in this video is that when you know what your love language is, and I really highly recommend this book because it breaks everything down into, how it works, how they receive, how you receive. It gives different examples of how everybody receives love. And it goes into explanations of how you can actually show your wife or your husband how you love them. By understanding their love language, you can do more of the thing that they love. It may not come natural to you. It may not be the thing that you're comfortable doing. Like acts of service or touching or giving gifts may not be your thing, but because your spouse likes it, the more you do that for them, you're going to start seeing a different reaction, and you're going to start seeing their love tank start to climb up. And then as their love tank climbs up, you can share, hey, look, sometimes it's time for a conversation. You know what I mean? Like you might have to sit down and say, look, this is how I feel loved. When you do this, when you do that, when you do that, that's how I feel loved. So it would be awesome. I know it may not be like the norm for you, but if you could do more of that, it would just make me feel really great. And you guys are married, so that should be a pretty easy conversation to have. You just sharing with each other because you want to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel in a relationship that they're loved by the other person. So fill up those love tanks. I'll go over it again. It's the 5 love languages. I'm going to put this book link in the description. You absolutely 100% should pick this up, especially if you and your wife, you love each other, but you're just not clicking, or you don't understand why you're not clicking, or something's not happening. And you're saying, man, I'm trying. I keep doing this. I keep doing that. But, she keeps saying, do you love me? And she's not really receiving it. This book right here, 5 love languages, not the one for children, just get the regular one, 5 love languages. It's words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Those are the 5. Speak to your spouse, see what they're into, see what they like, and do more of that. Part 4 is coming up. I'm going to get more into the pink view versus the blue view, the relationships, the love, and the respect. There's so much more to come. This series is kind of taking a tangent, but I'm super excited. So stay tuned for the next video. It's going to be fire. Oh, remember, like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun YouTube stuff. All right. God bless.